Regret is the only ghost that truly haunts a house. These words echoed in Chloe's mind as she stood at the edge of the field, the bright, sprawling green stretching endlessly before her, yet she felt oddly distant from it. The other kids were already running, their laughter bouncing off the walls of the field, but Chloe's feet felt anchored to the ground, her new pink soccer shoes barely moving. She watched them with wide eyes, taking in the way they easily kicked the ball, the effortless coordination between them. Her heart raced, not with excitement, but with the weight of unspoken thoughts, fears lurking just beneath her eager surface. She wanted to join in, to prove she belonged, but something held her back, an invisible wall built of doubts she wasn't ready to face. With a deep breath, she forced a smile, the kind that felt too wide for her face, as if the mere act of stretching her lips could hold back the tide of uncertainty that threatened to overtake her. Her parents were standing at the sidelines, cheering her on, their voices blending with the sound of the ball bouncing on the field. Chloe could feel their eyes on her, their hopes pinned on this moment. But in the deep recesses of her mind, a thought kept circling. Asterisk, what if she wasn't good enough? Asterisk, what if she failed to live up to their expectations, their quiet, unspoken belief that this was her chance to shine? Her mom's soft encouragements and her dad's proud smiles faded into the background as the weight of that question grew larger and larger with every passing second. The ball rolled toward her, and she instinctively stepped back. The players around her didn't notice, continuing their game with the same joyful energy, but Chloe remained still, frozen in place. She wasn't ready, not yet. She wasn't ready to show them she was scared. She wasn't ready to face the truth that maybe this wasn't her place after all. Her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted the hem of her uniform, the pink fabric soft beneath her touch, offering a strange comfort in its familiarity. The soccer field, with all its vibrant energy, felt like an alien world she was too small to understand. She could hear the coach's voice calling to the group, the steady rhythm of instructions blending with the distant, cheering parents, but none of it reached her, at least not in the way it should. Everything felt muffled, as if she was looking at the world through a glass window, unable to touch it, unable to be part of it. The memory of the night before crept into her thoughts, a quiet moment at the dinner table when her dad had promised, with a warm, half-smiling glance, that tomorrow would be the start of something special. Tomorrow, he had said. But tomorrow was here, and Chloe was afraid it might already be too late. The ground felt harder beneath her shoes now, a stark reminder of the distance between her and the others. The ball rolled closer, and for the first time, Chloe stepped forward, just a little. A small movement, barely noticeable, but it was enough. Enough to pull her away from the stillness that had threatened to engulf her. She took a breath and took the first step. Maybe this was where she started. Maybe the journey had already begun without her realizing it. The weight in her chest lightened, and with a small, unsure step, she joined the others, no longer standing still in the background, but moving, trying, in her own way. Chloe's feet moved a little faster now, the rhythm of the game slowly syncing with her breath. As the ball rolled toward her again, her hands instinctively reached down, trying to control the nervous energy building up inside her. For a split second, the thought crossed her mind that maybe she wasn't ready for this after all. Maybe this field, these kids, this game, were all things she wasn't cut out for. But the sound of her parents' cheering broke through the cloud of self-doubt. Her mom's voice, warm and encouraging, reached her ears, and for a moment, it felt as if the world stopped spinning. Chloe's eyes flicked to the sidelines where her dad stood, his hands clasped tightly together, eyes watching her with an intensity she hadn't noticed before. It was the way he always looked when he was proud of her, but it also carried something else, something unspoken, a quiet burden that made Chloe wonder if she could ever truly understand it. The ball nudged her foot again, and this time, she didn't hesitate. Her foot made contact, but the shot wasn't perfect. It rolled awkwardly to the side, missing the mark. Chloe's heart skipped a beat, the sting of failure quickly replacing the fleeting excitement she had just felt. Her cheeks burned, and she quickly turned her gaze away from the field, focusing on the edges of the grass. She could feel the eyes of the other players, the coach, and even her family, all unknowingly waiting for something from her, for some sign that she was more than just a beginner. But in that moment, Chloe felt small, more fragile than she had before. Her legs felt heavier, like they were weighed down by something far beyond the soccer ball at her feet. She wanted to run off the field, to escape this feeling of inadequacy, but she didn't. She stayed. She was scared, but she stayed. And slowly, she realized that wasn't just about the soccer game. It was about something deeper. Her dad's face, still watching from the sidelines, was no longer just the face of someone proud. It was a face that carried years of quiet sacrifice, years of things unsaid. He had never pressured her, never pushed her to be something she wasn't, yet Chloe could feel the weight of his expectations, unspoken but always there. Her mother, standing next to him, smiled, her eyes twinkling with joy, yet there was a sadness beneath it, a silent weariness that Chloe had never fully understood. It wasn't just about this moment. It was about everything they had given up for her, every sacrifice that had been made so she could stand here, in the middle of this field, ready to play. Chloe took another deep breath, the air heavy with both the scent of fresh grass and the weight of the realization that she had been carrying their hopes without even knowing it. The game wasn't just a game. It was a moment of reckoning. She wasn't just playing to win or to fit in. She was playing to honor what they had done for her, to prove that their sacrifices were not in vain. The next pass came her way, and this time, Chloe didn't flinch. She kicked the ball, with more purpose, more intention, and watched as it sailed through the air, landing perfectly where it was meant to be. A small but significant victory. As the game continued, Chloe's movements became more fluid, more confident. She wasn't thinking about whether she was good enough anymore. She wasn't thinking about how others saw her. She was just there, in the moment, playing, doing what she loved. And for the first time, she felt like she was part of something bigger than herself. The sun had started to dip below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the field, but Chloe barely noticed it. Her heart was still racing from the game, and the earlier surge of confidence had started to wane, replaced by an uneasy silence that settled over her chest. She felt her feet slow, her movements more deliberate, less sure. The sounds of the other kids laughing and shouting seemed to fade, and Chloe stood frozen for a moment, the ball at her feet forgotten. She glanced over to the sidelines where her dad's face, still proud, but now subtly strained, lingered in her vision. She could see the same tiredness she had only just begun to recognize in her mom's eyes, the kind that came from carrying the weight of unspoken sacrifices year after year. Her parents had always been there for her, but Chloe had never truly seen the cost of their support. She had been too young, too wrapped up in her own little world to understand the quiet toll their love had taken. As her feet shifted on the grass, Chloe's mind drifted back to the evening before, when her dad had sat down with her and shared a simple promise. Tomorrow, you'll play soccer, and I'll be proud no matter what. She had smiled, never truly grasping the weight of that promise. No matter what. The words were soft, but carried a depth she couldn't quite comprehend at the time. Now, they lingered, heavy and suffocating, like a secret too big to hide. She could feel the quiet pressure building in her chest, the weight of their expectations pressing down on her, though they had never said a word. Her dad had worked so hard to give her the chance to do something he never had the opportunity to do. Her mom had sacrificed pieces of herself to make sure Chloe had everything she needed. And here she was, standing on the field, wondering if she was worthy of all that love, all that sacrifice. Her legs suddenly felt weak, her body heavy as if the emotional weight had seeped into her bones. She glanced down at her pink cleats, now a little scuffed from the game, and for a moment, it felt like everything had stopped moving. The ball still sat at her feet, waiting, but Chloe couldn't bring herself to kick it. The fear of failure, of not being enough, was overwhelming. She had always been good at pushing those feelings aside, pretending that everything was fine, that she was okay, but today, it felt different. Her dad's quiet gaze was like a mirror reflecting all the things she had yet to understand, the unspoken burdens of love, the sacrifices made without question. Chloe's breath hitched as she remembered the long hours her parents spent working, the times they had put their dreams aside for her. How could she ever repay that? Was playing soccer enough? Could she ever be enough? Slowly, she took a step back, her body aching with the weight of all her unspoken thoughts. She knew she wasn't ready to answer those questions, not yet. But in that moment, Chloe understood something bigger than the game. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about carrying the weight of those who had supported her, those who had loved her even when she didn't fully understand what that love cost. She looked back at her dad one more time, and for the first time, she didn't see just the proud father standing there. She saw a man who had given up so much to see her stand here today. With a deep breath, Chloe pushed her fear aside, took one more step forward, and kicked the ball again. This time, it didn't matter whether she scored or not. It was enough to play, to try, to honor the silent sacrifices that had brought her here. Chloe's heart was still pounding as she walked off the field, the sound of her parents' cheers echoing in the distance. She had scored, but it didn't feel like the triumph she had imagined. The ball had sailed through the air, and for that brief moment, everything had clicked into place. But now, walking slowly toward the edge of the field, her steps felt heavier, each one like a reminder of the quiet weight she had been carrying all along. She glanced at her dad, who stood by the bleachers, his arms crossed, watching her with that same familiar pride. But now, his expression seemed to hold something else, a quiet sadness, a lingering exhaustion that Chloe had never noticed before. She looked down at the ground. The grass beneath her feet felt somehow colder than it had before, and she found herself unable to shake the nagging thought that there was more to his weariness than just a long day of work. She had been so focused on her own journey, her own fears and doubts, that she hadn't stopped to wonder about the weight her dad carried every single day. She didn't know what it felt like to wake up every morning and sacrifice your own dreams for someone else's future. But today, she thought she had caught a glimpse of it. It wasn't just the long hours her parents put in at their jobs. It was the way they never complained, the way they kept their struggles hidden behind smiles and quiet support. Her mom's gentle encouragements, her dad's proud glances, these weren't just signs of love. They were signs of something much deeper. Something that spoke of a sacrifice Chloe had never truly understood until now. She remembered the way her dad had looked at her after the game, as if he was seeing something more than just a little girl playing soccer. She felt it then, the unspoken love that had always been there, the silent sacrifices they had both made so she could stand here today. Chloe's eyes welled up with tears as the realization hit her. She hadn't just been playing soccer to prove something to herself. She had been playing for her parents, for everything they had given up so she could have the chance to be here, to experience this moment. And yet, she had never truly understood what that cost. She wiped her eyes quickly, trying to push the tears away. She didn't want her dad to see her cry, especially not after everything he had done for her. But she couldn't help it. The weight of everything, the sacrifices, the love, the unspoken expectations, was too much to bear. Chloe looked up at her dad once more, and this time, she saw him differently. She saw the quiet pride in his eyes, yes, but she also saw the exhaustion, the unspoken weight he carried, and the love that had been with her all along, even when she hadn't understood it. She didn't need to say anything, not out loud. Her dad knew. And in that moment, Chloe realized that it wasn't about being perfect, about scoring the most goals, or being the best player on the field. It was about understanding the sacrifices that had brought her here, about honoring the love and support that had always been with her, quietly in the background, waiting for her to notice. As she walked off the field, Chloe felt something shift inside her. She wasn't just a girl playing soccer anymore. She was a daughter, learning to understand the depth of the love her parents had given her, and that was worth more than any goal she could ever score. Chloe sat on the edge of the bleachers, the soft hum of the fading crowd around her blending with the rustle of the wind in the trees. She wasn't sure what to feel anymore. Her first practice had come to an end, and the thrill of the game was now replaced with a quiet heaviness in her chest. The laughter and chatter from the other kids seemed distant, muffled somehow, as if she were hearing it from behind a glass wall. Her parents had been proud, cheering her on with their usual warmth, but Chloe couldn't shake the growing feeling that something had changed. The excitement she felt when she first stepped onto the field was now tangled with a new understanding of the weight her family had carried for her. Her dad, still standing by the sideline, looked at her, but this time, his gaze wasn't filled with just pride. It was mixed with something deeper, something more complex, a kind of silent grief that Chloe hadn't noticed before. She had always seen him as strong, always there for her, a constant figure in her life. But today, for the first time, she saw the cracks in that strength. She saw the years of sacrifice, the unspoken toll that being a father had taken on him. Chloe's thoughts drifted back to her earlier question. Asterisk, what if she wasn't good enough? Asterisk, her heart tightened as she recalled the moments she had hesitated on the field, the times she felt unsure of herself. It wasn't just the fear of failure. It was the fear of not living up to what her parents had given her. It was the weight of their sacrifices, their silent dedication, and the crushing realization that she had never truly seen it until now. The ball rolling to her, the quick steps, the fleeting moments of doubt, those were just the surface. Underneath, Chloe now understood, was a much deeper truth. Her parents hadn't just given her a soccer ball, a uniform, a dream. They had given her everything, without asking for anything in return. And what had she given back? She had taken it all for granted, never fully appreciating the quiet exhaustion in her dad's eyes, the way he carried the world on his shoulders without ever showing it. The sacrifices weren't just things done out of love, they were things done out of necessity. Chloe felt the sting of this truth deep inside her. She hadn't just been playing for herself today. She had been playing for them. Every step on that field, every movement, was part of a larger picture that she had never seen before. It wasn't about being the best or winning. It was about honoring the love, the effort, the countless hours her parents had poured into her life. Chloe wiped the tears that threatened to fall, taking a deep breath as she stood up. Her dad was still watching, waiting. The old, familiar weight of expectation was still there, but now it felt different. Now it felt like the weight of love. The realization washed over her like a tide, and for the first time, Chloe felt ready to face it. She didn't need to be perfect. She didn't need to prove anything. All she needed to do was show up. Chloe turned toward the field again, the grass beneath her feet now a reminder not of her doubts, but of her family's unwavering support. She wasn't alone in this journey anymore. She wasn't just a little girl trying to play soccer. She was a daughter, learning to see the world through the eyes of her parents. And for the first time, she felt ready to carry that weight. Chloe sat in the quiet car ride home, the weight of the day settling heavily on her shoulders. The car hummed steadily as it drove down the familiar road, but the sounds around her felt distant, muffled. Her mom's gentle voice and her dad's occasional glances in the rearview mirror seemed like they were coming from far away. Chloe's mind, however, was racing, replaying every moment from practice, from the game, from the realization she had come to just moments ago. She had tried to block out the nagging thoughts, the questions that had surfaced, but now they were all she could think about. The moment the ball had rolled to her feet again, the second time she kicked it, the clarity that had washed over her. Those were the moments that defined the day. But now, as she sat in the back seat, the realization that had been creeping up on her felt overwhelming. Her parents had given everything to make sure she had the chance to succeed, to be something they never could have been, and she had never truly understood it until now. The effort, the sacrifice, the quiet exhaustion in their eyes, it had always been there, just below the surface, but Chloe had never seen it. She had been too focused on her own world to realize the price they paid for her to live hers. Her dad had worked late into the nights, and her mom had stayed awake with her when she needed help, always there, but always hiding their own tiredness behind their smiles. Chloe had been oblivious to it all. She had been too young to understand. She thought about the way her dad had looked at her after the game, with pride, yes, but also something else, something quieter, deeper. It wasn't just about her first victory or her first goal. It was about everything that had brought her here, the years of quiet sacrifice. Chloe's chest tightened as the gravity of it all sank in. She had been so focused on her own doubts and insecurities that she had missed what really mattered. Her dad wasn't just watching her succeed on the field. He was watching his sacrifice unfold, seeing the fruits of his hard work paying off. But she had never fully recognized it until now. The truth settled in her stomach like a stone. The realization that she could never fully repay them, never truly understand the depth of their sacrifices, was almost too much to bear. She closed her eyes, trying to push the tears away, but they came anyway, spilling down her cheeks in quiet silence. Her parents, still talking quietly in the front seat, didn't notice. Chloe didn't want them to. She didn't want to show them the weight of what she was feeling. But as she sat there, the quiet sobs caught in her throat, she realized something she hadn't before. It was okay not to have the answers. It was okay to not know how to repay them. All she had to do was understand. Understand that they had given everything for her. Understand that this was their love, unspoken but powerful, always there. The tears subsided as quickly as they came, and Chloe sat up straight, wiping her eyes on the sleeve of her jacket. She wasn't sure what to say, but she knew she couldn't keep pretending anymore. When they arrived home, Chloe didn't rush inside like she usually did. Instead, she stayed in the car for a moment, letting the quiet settle in her chest. She looked up at her dad in the front seat, meeting his gaze for the first time that day, and for the first time, she truly saw him. Not just as her father, not just as someone who provided for her, but as a person who had loved her silently, endlessly. And in that moment, Chloe made a silent vow. She would carry this understanding with her, not just in her heart, but in everything she did from now on. As Chloe stepped out of the car, the evening air hit her face, cool and refreshing after the warm, stuffy silence inside. Her parents had already moved ahead, heading toward the front door, but Chloe lingered for a moment. She could still feel the weight of everything pressing down on her, but something was different now. Something had shifted inside her, and though the uncertainty still lingered in the back of her mind, she didn't feel so alone anymore. The quiet realization that had been creeping up on her since the moment she stepped onto that field now felt like a heavy blanket that was both suffocating and comforting at the same time. Her mind drifted back to the moments before the game, when she had first noticed the quiet strength in her parents' eyes, the way they had silently supported her, without asking for anything in return. Their sacrifices had been so deeply woven into the fabric of her life that she had never once questioned them, never once wondered what it had cost them. But now, with each passing thought, she understood the depth of it. They had given up pieces of themselves so she could have a chance to play, to live out dreams they never had. She felt her chest tighten, the knot in her stomach growing heavier with each breath. But it wasn't just the realization that caused the discomfort. It was the understanding that she had never really seen them before. She had always been so wrapped up in her own world, her own needs, that she had never stopped to think about what was happening behind the scenes. What her dad had quietly given up for her to have the opportunities she had. What her mom had silently endured, keeping everything together, never asking for help. The thought of their quiet sacrifices, so hidden, so unspoken, made her feel small. It wasn't that she had been ungrateful, she just hadn't understood. Now, standing in the cool air, Chloe knew something was changing inside her. The weight of her parents' love, of their sacrifices, had been too heavy for her to fully grasp before. But now, the heaviness felt like a bridge between them. She was no longer the little girl standing on the field, trying to prove herself. She was someone who was beginning to understand what it meant to love in silence, to give everything without expecting anything in return. Chloe took a deep breath and walked up to the porch, her parents already inside, the door slightly ajar. She paused for a moment before entering, her hand resting lightly on the doorframe. It was almost as if she were stepping into a new chapter, one where she didn't need to have all the answers, but could simply start to show up, to recognize the quiet love that had always been there, just waiting for her to see it. She stepped inside, her heart still heavy, but now it was a different kind of weight, a weight that felt like the beginning of something, like the first step toward understanding what it meant to be truly seen, to truly see. Her parents looked up as she entered, her dad giving her a warm smile, and Chloe could feel the shift between them. It wasn't a grand gesture, it wasn't a conversation, they didn't need words. Chloe simply nodded, a silent understanding passing between them. And for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, casting soft rays across the table where Chloe sat, quietly eating her breakfast. Her parents were busy in the other room, but there was a stillness in the air that felt different today. She hadn't spoken much since last night, but she felt something inside her shifting, something she couldn't quite name yet. It was as if the weight of all those unspoken thoughts, those realizations, had finally settled into a place where they could no longer be ignored, but they weren't overwhelming either. For the first time, Chloe felt like she could breathe, like the weight of the day before had been a necessary part of her journey. The heavy silence between her and her parents didn't feel uncomfortable anymore. It felt natural, like a shared understanding that had been building for a long time. even if no words had been said. She thought back to the moment she had stepped into the house after the game, when her dad had given her that knowing look. The warmth in his eyes had said more than words ever could. It was as if they were finally speaking the same language, the language of quiet sacrifice and mutual love. Chloe didn't need to ask for anything, and neither did her parents. They had always been there, quietly supporting her without ever expecting anything in return. She had always taken that for granted. But now, she realized how deeply rooted that love was. It wasn't just in the big things, the game, the goals, the smiles. It was in the small moments, the quiet sacrifices, the everyday acts of love that often went unnoticed. As Chloe finished her breakfast, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She wasn't sure how to express it yet, but she knew she needed to do something. She wanted to show her parents that she saw them now, really saw them, and understood. But it wasn't about grand gestures or big speeches. It was about the small things, the everyday moments, where love could be expressed without words. As the day went on, Chloe found herself paying closer attention to the little things. Her mom's soft voice as she made dinner, the way her dad's hands moved as he worked on his tools, the quiet moments when they weren't talking but just being together. She realized that all of these things were part of what had shaped her, part of what had made her the person she was. She didn't need to do anything extraordinary to repay them. All she needed to do was be present, to recognize their love and the sacrifices they had made for her. That was enough. She could feel the difference in the air, the way the world seemed to slow down, allowing her to appreciate everything around her. Chloe's heart felt lighter, not because all the answers had come to her, but because she had begun to understand the power of quiet love. She wasn't just playing soccer anymore. She was living with intention, with a deeper sense of appreciation for the life her parents had given her. And that, she realized, was the greatest victory of all. Chloe woke up early the next morning, the sunlight gently spilling through her window, casting soft shadows on the walls. The house was quiet, almost still, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the background. She lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, reflecting on everything that had happened over the past few days. It wasn't just the game or the practice, it was the understanding that had shifted inside her, like a weight had been lifted but replaced with something far deeper. She felt a sense of peace that she hadn't felt in a long time. Her mind kept returning to the small moments, the quiet sacrifices of her parents that had always been there, hidden in plain sight. The way her mom made dinner every night with a smile, even when she was exhausted. The way her dad always found time to help her with her homework, no matter how late it was. Chloe realized that this was what true love looked like. No grand gestures, no need for recognition. It was in the consistency, the quiet presence, the small acts of devotion that built a life together. Chloe had spent so much of her life chasing after the idea of success, of being good enough, but she now understood that success wasn't something that could be measured by achievements or accolades. It was something deeper, more profound. It was about being present, about showing up, about appreciating the sacrifices of those who loved you. The world outside her window was waking up, and Chloe felt herself ready to step into it with a newfound sense of clarity. She wasn't perfect, and she didn't need to be. She had learned that what mattered wasn't how many goals she scored or how well she performed. What mattered was how she carried herself, how she honored the love that had been given to her, how she showed up for others just as her parents had always shown up for her. She knew there was still so much to learn, still so much to figure out, but for the first time, Chloe felt ready to embrace it. As she walked downstairs, she found her parents in the kitchen, already starting their day. The smell of coffee filled the air, and her mom turned with a soft smile. "Good morning, sweetheart," she said, her voice warm. Chloe smiled back, the simple words carrying more weight than they ever had before. She realized she hadn't just learned about soccer in the past few days. She had learned about life, about love, and about the quiet strength that came from understanding the sacrifices of those who had always been there. She was no longer a child on the sidelines, unsure of where she belonged. She was a daughter who saw, who understood, who was ready to give back in her own way. And that, she knew, was enough.